name is Christine and I'm on the design team for Arden Creative Studios, and in today's video we're looking at the brand new Been There collection from Arden and Katie Pertiet. I haven't actually decided what we're going to create yet, but I think we're going to use all of these beautiful elements from the Been There collection. So I've picked out the gorgeous 12 by 12 solids, so the Been There solid kind of versions, and actually these are a bit different to the previous solids. They actually have some subtle kind of map details in them as well, and you'll see that on the piece that I have chosen to work with. Then I've also picked out the 6 by 8 Been There paper pad with all of the beautiful patterns. They're absolutely gorgeous. Some of them I feel like I don't want to cut into because they're so beautiful, but I have trimmed into one that I think we're going to be working with today. Then I've also got the Vintage Makers bookmakers, which are some beautiful pieces of ephemera that kind of look like old vintage books, and they're in sort of small different sizes. I think Katie has also taken the pages and sewn them together into a little journal as well. I'm sure I've seen somebody do that. I'm not sure if it definitely was Katie, but I think they're absolutely gorgeous, and I think we may be using one of these on one of the projects that we're going to do today. Then, as always, I absolutely adore the laser cuts because they're already cut out for you and you have them printed on both sides, so you can use them in whichever direction you want. I've also picked out the ephemera pack because I think there's going to be some beautiful like small bits and pieces and sentiments and stuff in here that we're going to use. The rub-ons as well, absolutely gorgeous. I fell in love with this suitcase image, so we're going to be using that today, I think. We've also got the stencil from this collection as well, which is called This Way, and it's got beautiful arrows and even just gorgeous circles. I mean, this can be used for anything. These two maybe are more towards the travelling in a certain direction or something, but they're beautiful patterns that can be used for all sorts of different occasions. Even like this could be a stylised version of snow as well for Christmas cards. And then maybe, I don't know yet, but we may be using a couple of elements from the Traveller Essentials Words and Phrases, which coordinates with the die set that came out in the previous collection. And also the Been There epoxy stickers, which are new. We usually get enamel dots in our collections, but this time we've got epoxy stickers that have got these gorgeous little sayings, lovely small little pieces that you can add on, some lovely heart, and then some gorgeous solid and stripy dots as well. So we may be sprinkling a few of those on when we finish, but stay tuned to see what we end up creating in this video. So as I said before, I haven't 100% decided what we're doing for our two cards that we're going to create in this video, but I've picked out some of my favourite elements. So I've got one of these gorgeous Vintage Makers bookmakers kind of pages to use, and then I've picked out a bunch of different elements from the laser cuts and from the ephemera pack as well, that I think will kind of go nicely to make more of a clustered kind of card. And we might put a little bit of twine in the tag and like add another sentiment onto there as well. And there is also these lovely envelopes in the back of the 6 by 8 paper pad, and I feel like maybe we could make use of one of these envelopes perhaps as well. We'll see how we feel when we're sort of putting it all together, but I've kind of got that in the back of my mind to possibly use along with this card as well. And I've got a couple of different sentiment bits and pieces, and I feel like we'll probably use some of the epoxy stickers and maybe a bit of stamping on this one. But the first card I want to start with is going to be a really simple one. Again, I've picked out a few different bits and pieces. I've got one of those gorgeous little round pieces, which is very similar to the epoxy ones, but it's from the laser cut set. I've got a couple of sentiments. This one's from the ephemera, this one's from the laser cut. I've got this gorgeous plane flying in, which is also from the laser cut, and then I've picked out those gorgeous suitcases. I absolutely adore those, they're so beautiful. And I've snipped into one of the 6 by 8 patterned papers, and I do also have scraps left over from this as well, which I will be using on another card. But you have, I can't remember how I snipped into this now. I think it was maybe like this, like that. So I've snipped out sort of the top left corner of this page, and I will be using the other pieces on different projects because I really like the distressed kind of plaid that's on the back of this as well. Plus that is just beautiful. I think maybe those two combined together as well. Absolutely gorgeous though. I love the way that Katie layers everything together. Like there's so many different textures in here. It even looks like there's like part of an envelope or something in here. There's like different street maps as well. You've got scripting, you've got the splatters, and sometimes you just feel like they don't need much adding to them. They're so beautiful anyway. So I just thought if we bring in this beautiful suitcase, or the two suitcases, and add them here, and I think this lovely little plane coming in, once we've rubbed that on, coming in from this direction, and then maybe layering up a couple of the different sentiments down here, and maybe plopping in a little circle one there. And then for this area here, I'm thinking if it looks a little bit too plain, a little bit of stenciling with this fabulous this way stencil, I think would look really nice up in that corner. So let's get the rub-on on first, and then we'll think about the stenciling and putting some of the other bits and pieces on this card. But I feel like if you get the rub-on in position first, you can do anything else you want to after that, and the rub-on will kind of act like a resist as well. So depending what kind of ink you use, you can sort of protect the area that you've put your rub-on down. So just trying to eyeball that to get it straight, the bottom of the suitcase with the bottom of my card, and we can press that into position. And then you can use whatever you like to press these down. They come with a lolly stick in them. I like to use a glide folder, or you can use a bone folder, or I'm sure you'll have seen in Katie's video she likes to use a ball tool as well. So whatever you feel most comfortable with for rubbing your rub-ons on. And I'm just going to rub all of the way over the top of this, and they rub on so nicely onto the pattern papers from Arden as well. You have no issues getting them to rub down really nicely. So we can start over here, and if we haven't pressed hard enough in any areas, we can just go back and press again. And actually, because I'm working on this paper that's already got all of those beautiful distressed kind of bits in the background, it's hard to actually tell which elements belong to the rub-on and which of them were already on the paper. So we'll just carefully peel this off as we're adding a bit of extra pressure. There we go. And we've got our stunning suitcase rub-on on there. It even looks like it's part of the patterned paper as well, because it just goes so nicely together. So we've got that in position, and then if we bring back in our other elements, we can kind of see where they're going to fit more now. I quite like these two together, Adventure and These Are the Days. And then I think just a tiny bit of really subtle ink blending up here. So let's get our stencil. And then a nice subtle colour that would go along with this could possibly be old paper or frayed burlap from the Distress range. Maybe frayed burlap actually. It's funny how sometimes you don't use these colours very often, and then they're all like, then they're just the perfect colour when you're working with a maybe slightly more masculine colour palette like this collection. So let's bring in a little bit of that frayed burlap. I don't want it coming up too high. I just want something like really subtle in the background, just to sort of know that you've customised it a little bit. So just really light ink blending just to get a few of those gorgeous arrows in there. There, I think that's going to be perfect. Just a lovely little subtle bit of detail. Absolutely perfect. That stencil is beautiful. So now we've got that inked onto there, I think this card is going to come together really quickly just with those few extra elements. So you can see how quickly you can build a really nice card when you start with one of the gorgeous patterned papers that's got all of those collage-y elements on as well. So I think for this, I'm just going to add some 3D foam tape to the back of this, and then I'll come back and we can stick the elements together. Right, before we actually stick these down, I think I do want to add a tiny bit of stamping just with this stamp set. So the sentiments we've already got are Adventure and These Are the Days. So what else could go really nicely with this? Maybe like Dream Destination. Let's use that one. So I'm just going to put that on an acrylic block, and I don't want to do much stamping at all. I just feel like a little bit more, just to give it a little bit more of our touch to the card. I think it will work really nicely. So I've got a nice dark brown ink pad, the Pinecone one from Versifying Claire, and I think over here where the plane's going to be, so I'm just going to do multiple impressions. I'm going to just stamp like this. I think that's going to look really good. It just adds something a little bit extra to our cluster. Yeah, I think that's going to work really nicely, and we could even do it again up here in this little area. So maybe just a little bit of extra detail up there. And as everything always looks better in threes, we are going to put the sentiments down here, but maybe we'll just have the same thing again, just so that it'll possibly show behind those sentiments that we're going to add on there too. Yeah, I think that just adds something a little bit extra to it. So now I've got everything on my 3D foam, I'm going to add these onto here. So we probably will cover up most of this, but it's nice to know that you added it there in the background. So we've got these are the days, and then we've got adventure. Maybe we will just let that dream destination show actually. We've got adventure, and then we've got a little en route. We can maybe put that on the corner there. And then we've got our lovely little vintage plane, which I could have done facing in either direction because it's from the laser cuts and they go in both directions, which is nice. They're double-sided with their printing. And I think just like that. And then all we need to do to finish that off is stick it onto a white card blank, which brings in the white from the sentiments and everything. And we might finish with a few of these. Let's do the second card and then we'll see what kind of embellishment they need once we've gotten through them. So for the second card, I have picked out these elements so far. So I've taken this pattern paper. Now I have chopped a piece of this. This is one of the white sheets from the solid paper pack, but it's not just solid this time. I mean, no, this is a white piece, but it does have detail on it. So this piece has got fairly minimal amount on it, which is why I'm using it for this one, because I know I'm going to cover a lot of it. But the other side is fantastic as well. But the piece next to this one has, look, beautiful map detail on it. So they have got this like subtle map and travel kind of feel to the solid sheets in this collection as well, which is beautiful. So going back to this piece, this is what we're going to work with. And then I've got a tag, an arrow, go, see, do. We've got getaway, which is, it says our great getaway. We've got explore, dream and discover. I love this. This is from the ephemera pack, and it says this wild world is ready to be explored, which is just really gorgeous. And look how like realistic that looks with that rust on there. It's absolutely beautiful. So I had to pick that out to try and use on here. I've got another one of those small little circles that says let's go. There is also one on here that says just go, so maybe we don't put this on and we use one of these instead, so that could be an alternative kind of idea. I've got one of these beautiful hearts, which is from the ephemera pack as well, just checking to see if it was double-sided or not, but really beautiful. It looks almost quilted and puffy. This gorgeous little vintage car, which is really cute, and this is from the laser cut, so it's double-sided, but I think we're going to have it going in that direction. And then I've also picked out one of the postage stamps from the laser cuts as well, just because it's all like travel themed and everything. It's going to go really nicely. And then I've got one of the gorgeous, can't remember the name again, Vintage Maker Bookmakers ephemera. So absolutely beautiful these, and this is quite large, and my cards that I like to make are quite small, so we're only going to be using like half of this, so we'll have the other half for another project as well. And in the pack you get 2 of each, plus you have this on the other side, so depending how you want to use it, you could just go for vintage layered up kind of papers within a book, or you can have the side that's got all of the printing on it as well, with the wording in the book too, so you can really play around with which side you want to use. I'm just going to trim off those 2 little tabs that are just on there from where it was die cut out in the production process. And then I want to start with this on the page, and I just want, you know, this sort of portion of it on the page first, but that's how I want to start this. And then I haven't really decided how everything else is going to go on there, but I'm thinking the tag at an angle with this go, see and do, we could maybe put a piece of twine through there to tie them together. We could have the arrow going in the same direction as the arrow on the tag, maybe, like that, so everything's pointing in that direction, which is why I want the card to go that way, because I feel like the paper's pointing that way, or the sort of tag that has the pattern from the paper, and funnily enough that is the same sheet of paper that I'm using for the other card. I want the car going in that direction. I really like this Our Great Getaway. I don't know whether down here or up there maybe would look good for that. I do really want to include that because I really like that vintagey look of that, so maybe that could be on that corner. Then we can have the Explore, Dream, Discover. I'm not worried about that being a full sentiment on the card. I may cut a little bit of it off and it's just sort of like the road that the car is driving along. We've got a beautiful stamp, which we could layer those two together maybe, so that kind of looks like a postmark for the stamp as well. And then I just really love that heart. I don't know whether it's gonna fit anywhere. Maybe just have it tucked in there maybe. And then we've got the little Let's Go, which we could swap out for one of these stickers instead. Maybe even the one with the yellow border, because it can bring in that mustardy colour across there as well. So I'm thinking something like that, although I did mention those envelopes, so we could have a look. I don't know if it's going to make it too busy on this card, but I wanted to point those out because they're really gorgeous little envelopes, and they're actually die cut in the paper pad. So the back two sheets of the paper pads have all of these die cut elements that you can pop out, and they sort of double-sided in a way, so they have a bit of a pattern on the other side, but it's not identical on the other side. It's more of like a white version, so if you just wanted a white envelope you'd have that option from the back. And then you have this little slit in here that you can pop out, and you can tuck your elements inside it as well, which is, I was kind of thinking, you know, maybe you could have that panel, that tag coming out from the envelope, but I don't know if it needs it actually. I think I like it as it is, but it's nice to see what these envelopes look like for tucking different elements inside it. But I think I'm happy with this kind of layout here. Like having the car driving along that as a little road and building up the elements like that. I think I like that. So I'm going to take a photo and then I'm going to just find some twine and then I'll come back to you. Okay, so I've got some twine there, and because we did a bit of stamping and stenciling on the other card, maybe we could do a bit on this one as well. So on this tag, we could bring in, we've got quite a lot of arrows on this card, so maybe let's go for those circles and just bring in some really subtle detail with the same frayed burlap ink, because that colour worked really nicely. And just add on a few of these gorgeous little circles. Yeah, I think that looks nice. Just going to add something a little bit extra onto there. And then we have those beautiful stitching marks. I absolutely love these. They're so gorgeous. And we could add some stitching onto the backing paper. So we could just add like a little bit of stitching coming down there as an extra little element. Let's use that brown ink that we were using on the previous card and just add a little bit of extra detail on there. I think that looks really good. Just a little subtle extra detail. Okay. So, we have got this little sentiment here, and we've got the tag, and I've got a little bit of like this natural sort of twine that I'm thinking we could attach these two together with, and then also tie a bow. I'm never sure the best way to do this, you know, attach or add some twine to a tag for a card and also get a bow in there as well. Maybe we don't need a bow. I think the best way to do a bow is to take another piece and slot it underneath this little loop that we've just added on here. So get it to go under without splitting the thread like I have just done, like so. And then tying our bow on the top here so it doesn't sort of get weird and bulky like sometimes that happens when you're tying a bow. So let's just tie a tiny little bow. There, I think that looks good actually. Okay, so let's just trim off those tails. So we've now got a bow on there as well, and then we've got the string coming out the top too. And we can kind of decide how we want that to lay on our card as well, if we need to put any glue on it or anything, but this little tag can move now within the design. So let's bring this back in, and I'm referring back to my photo on my phone so I can remember the kind of layout that I liked of this. And I think, because I know that where I want that book to be in the background, let's get that stuck on and trimmed off first so that we can, you know, see where everything else is going to overhang our card without being sort of tricked by that piece hanging over the edge and feeling like it's still part of the project. So we can just add some double-sided tape. Okay, and then I think this kind of jaunty angle looks good. And then we can flip that over, use a long bladed pair of scissors and cut up against our backing panel. And I've got a tiny bit to trim on the bottom as well. And then that is how that piece is on our card now. And we've got this piece that we could do a similar thing with coming from the opposite angle on another card, or we could use the back of this and do our own kind of stamping on here and make it look like a vintage book as well. So lots of ways of using those, and I think a lot of the design team will probably show you some really fun ways of using them. So let's put these things into position. We may want to stick that little tag down actually if we feel like it keeps moving, but let's position that roughly where I think I want it. Then we could get this in place. I don't mind if it hangs off the edge, but I don't know, it doesn't need to say the full word on there, but it can do if it fits. And then I love this rusty one, so this needs to come up a bit if I want that rusty sign to fit in there. And do we want everything at that angle, or do we make this straight, the car coming across straight? Maybe we do that. I don't know, I kind of liked it. In my photo, we had the tag down a bit lower, and we had everything going off wonky with the book, which I quite liked actually. Okay, let's do that then. Move that to there. And then this area we've got, oh, this way is the postage stamp. Like this, and then we've got the car there, the little heart, tucking that in. We can swap this out for an epoxy sticker as well, and then we could just do the arrow. We could do the arrow on the tag or coming off of the tag. I think maybe on the tag would look good for the arrow. Just adds a little extra element on there. Okay, I like that layout. So let's start by adding some 3D foam to some of these foreground elements, I think. So we can stick some on the back of this lovely sentiment here, and then we can catch that postage stamp behind it. So I'm thinking, oh, I didn't put any tape where I want that to go. Okay, add a little bit extra so we can attach that together. So I'm thinking that tilted like that, and then this sort of tucked behind there, that'll look good. And then we could stick that onto the tag so that that is then ready. I think like that, and it doesn't matter if it catches the tail of that bow there. We can adhere our little arrow onto here as well. Maybe have that trying to go in the same direction as these, you know, in the same sort of parallel going across. Okay, I like that. I think maybe we do need to add a little bit of foam tape behind this tag sentiment just so it stays in the same position, like so. And then I think adding the tag with 3D foam is going to be nice as well because it's going to add a little bit more dimension. So let's do that with 3D foam. Okay, so we can position this. I think we need to maybe put these in place first so I get them in the right general area. So I want this to go about there, and I want the tag to come down a bit further than that, so let's put that about there. And I like that this is kind of blending in with the book. It could almost be like a bookmark as well to go along with the book too. And then I think I want that with a little bit of 3D foam as well. And put that down here. And then we've got our kind of road piece for our car to go on. So, I mean, this only really needs a bit of 3D foam at each end because it's overlapping that tag. So let's just do a little bit of 3D on each end and then some glue in the middle. And then we want that to kind of go along at the same angle, like that. And then we've got our lovely little vintage car, our heart as well. And then this little element, which I think I'm going to use an epoxy sticker instead of that, and I'll put that back in with my laser cuts. So I want to do a double layer on this little heart so that it overlaps onto the tag but then also is supported when it goes on the other part of the card. So if we add our initial layer of foam, and then we can kind of hold this roughly how we think it's going to go, and then we know to add a bit more foam on this side. I think tuck that in like that, and then definitely 3D foam the car, and I think 2 layers to make it thicker and raised up a little bit more. So let's do double stack just there. This tiny skinny part here, I think maybe I will stack the foam tape first and then die cut a little thin piece to go across the top of the car there, like so. And then we can use a bit more of this to go here, and this will give a nice shadow behind those windows as well when this is added on. So let's tuck it about there, I think. Okay, so it's coming together. I think, do we want that to actually be stuck down? I do quite like it when something is actually stuck like this. So let's just do a tiny bit of glue on the back of that and see if we can get them to stay stuck as part of the card. This glue will dry clear, so we shouldn't be able to tell that we've stuck that there. So I'm going to keep that little let's go, and then let's have a look at these beautiful epoxy stickers and see which one. The great thing about them is they're on a clear sheet, so you can actually like audition them on your project as well. So it did say let's go. We've got this one that says just go, but I kind of feel like the yellow would go nicely with this. This one says miss me. So explore, dream, discover. This wild world is ready to be explored. Our great getaway. Maybe not lost would be nice. Let's do the little not lost yellow one, like that. I think that works nicely. And then I'm dying to put some of these gorgeous little epoxy domes on here as well. So let's just get another card blank ready for this one. And then let's see what we feel like for these. So we could do a little heart on this one maybe, and then a couple of little dots. I'm leaning towards the green because of the foliage as well. I think the darkest green stripy heart, like that, that looks good. And then we don't need one of these because we've already got that one. I think that would be a little bit overkill having two of them on there. Maybe we could do a stripy yellow one, and then one more with a solid colour, maybe in the light red kind of colour. Yeah, I like that. It just sort of finishes it off. Okay, and then this one, so we've got the one element there. We've already got a blue heart, but we could add another blue heart, couldn't we? Maybe the solid blue little heart over here. And then one more to kind of balance it out, I think. Let's go with solid dark green dot. Just put another little one up there. I think that looks good. So I hope you enjoyed this video, making a really simple card with the Been There collection, using the rub-ons, the 6x8 pattern papers, some of the ephemera pieces, laser cuts and the epoxies, plus the stencil and the stamps as well on this one too. But hopefully that's a nice sort of simple layout that you may want to try, either with this collection or one of the others from Arden. And then this slightly more involved layering up more of the elements and bits and pieces on this card as well. But a really nice masculine collection, this one, the Been There, and also perfect for anybody going off on road trips or summer holidays, or you know, anything like that coming up later in the year. So really hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next one. Bye!